Hi, everybody. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Stoikey with For Better For Worse.
And
Lisa Bataska.
with
Canine Defined.
Do you have a home, Lisa? Where's your home?
She made her own home. Hi, everybody. Let us know you're out there. Let us know you're out there. Welcome to part 3 of our behavior series. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about confidence, and we're also going to review a little bit of some of you have been very kind and sent some video and things like that. So I'm really I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys are giving us and gives us something to look at. And you guys, it really makes me feel good that you guys are really looking at it. So it's really pretty awesome. So thank you for that. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about confidence. Previously we had talked about energy and arousal and
sociability,
which are some things that are not really you can't really change. You can make it better with training, but you can't really change it much. You can just help it along with training. So tonight we're going to talk about confidence. And that is something we can change and make better and all those wonderful things. And Erin, I'm glad you're on. If I forgot to text you today, could we use your video of Crimson for tonight's thing? I know it'd probably be fine, but I just want to double check with you. Anyway, so confidence is something we can make better, we can change, we can improve over time. So even if you might have a dog that's a little bit low confidence, you can make that better. The difference is it depends on the dog and the situation and all those things, how much confidence you can put in that dog, right? You can never take a extremely fragile dog and make them super, super confident. It doesn't quite work like that good, but you can make it better and you can help the dog be better than you could have. But you can also, going the other way, you can also make things worse as well. So but none of us here are going to ever do that. So, but you can make the situation worse if with maybe depending on your training methodology, you can change things a lot. So it's just one of those things. But confidence is something that you can change and it is mutable and you can make better or you can make worse depending on how you handle that. Right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So, so Lisa and Joanne, either or, what are some of the things that maybe can make confidence worse?
Flooding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is it's what we see a lot of, and I think we see flooding the most with I'll just use the layman's term of like stranger danger, right? Go kiss grandma. Here's a cookie.
Right. And or we'd like, oh, we'll take a dog that's a little worried. We'll take them to a parade. I see that a lot.
Right.
So I'm not joking.
I also think like over management can can actually make it worse as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If you're constantly like, oh, it's okay, don't worry, and or your energy to it too.
It's so great that you mentioned that, Lisa, because in reactive dog class, that's one of the things people who've gone to other reactive dog class, that is actually a common methodology. They train you to keep the dog very busy during that time. And it's like, oh no, because then your arousal goes up and everything goes crazy and the dog's not making the right choices. So yeah, it's over managing really absolutely can make it worse. I know it's very counterintuitive for folks, but truly it's makes it a lot worse. Sometimes the dog just needs to breathe. It would be like somebody trying to hug you while you're hysterical. Sometimes you just need to step away and then come back. And
that would be bad for me.
Right. For some dogs, right. For some people, that would be awful. Right.
Who needs a hug?
No. Just kidding. But I think a lot of times too, and I think it's just I agree with you. I think the intent is behind it is really a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that if you're adding that energy into it, that it can really cause a lot more anxiety because you're changing your whole demeanor, which then the dog's like, what is happening? It's like I tell people it's almost like hovering over that, you know, the nuclear bomb button where, oh, I might be able to press it. And that intensity, that anticipation is just way too much.
Right.
And I think it's too much for both. But
And I think too, sometimes you can mask what's really going on.
Yeah.
Right. If the dog may have had a problem and is slowly starting to get over it, you adding to that might be, the dog might actually be okay with it and is still exhibiting certain behaviors because you are exhibiting them first. Right. And so that's what's really, really hard is it's so hard to step away and say, how about now? Right? Like, is now okay? And a lot of times in the beginning, the dog's going to say, no, it's not. But, you know, when you're 2 months down the line, ask them again, right? Is it okay? And they're like, it's better, but still not okay. Right.
Right. And also, you're talking to somebody who's very impatient. Even though my students would be like, really? I'm like, really? I'm very impatient. So I am trying to teach my lab to stay, for me to be able to walk around behind her, and she's really struggling with it. Where my shepherd is like, yeah, I got it, it's no problem, and she's struggling a little. So I started working a little bit every day, and I have to tell you, today I still haven't get. I was able to get around once, and she was okay. So it's just stepping back myself and just giving her the time to process it. She was awesome. We're making progress, right? So it's one of those things that it's like, I started to get stressed because, oh my God, she's not getting it. And it's like, no, she is. She's totally getting it. So I just have to calm down. Let her. And it's the thing is, I was telling Joanne, I'm like, this is for her. She's got everything else. She's very good at everything else, but this is just a little tough for her. And I was, I'm used to a dog, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but Cha-Cha was like, okay, you can show her something outside the ring. I was like, got it.
Those dogs spoil us, don't they?
Oh my God.
Nancy needs a special brownie before she trains the dogs. Now, like, come here, buddy. It's all right. Just hang out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things. Anyway, can you define confidence or give you an example? Yeah. So yes, a novel. So Christy, that's a really great question. So you have dogs that can go into an environment and be like, okay, whatever. And nothing bothers them. They're pretty calm, nice, soft body language. And then there are dogs that might be a little more cautious, right? They might be like, I'm not sure, but giving them a minute, they'll be like, okay. And then there are dogs that are like, OMG, this is way too much, and may take much longer. So there's different varying degrees, right? And you have to, and this is the important part, you have to start where the dog is, right?
And I think we had this conversation about what do we talk about next week? And we had a conversation talking about awareness, right? About different kind of senses to the dog. And I said, that's so complicated, right? But it's funny that, it interacts so much with confidence, because you can have a dog that, let's say, right, is really auditorily sensitive. Okay. More so than another dog, right? So you might go into the trial environment and think the dog has confidence issues with a trial environment, but it might just be, the loud agility trial, where if you go to an obedience trial where you can hear a pin drop, the dog doesn't have any problems at all. So again, we get into this, like, we can't mesh everything together, even though it does for life. But it's hard to break all these things down. So I don't know. I think, right, you guys, like, awareness it plays a role in that. But
and that's one of the things, and maybe at least one of the things you want to know is how your dog takes in his world. That's what awareness is. Like, how does it typically process things? Is it more visual? Is it more auditory? Is it more olfactory? Does it do more sniffing? You really need to know that. And because then that's going to give you a little bit of a window on where he's more confident and where he isn't, right? So, like, for example, most shepherds or herding breeds are more visual. Most. But not all, but most of them are, right? That's what they're supposed to do. Because if they weren't, it'd be kind of hard. And certain breeds, like a lot of the gun dogs, can be more auditorily aware, right? They're supposed
where your hound breeds can be more olfactory, right? It's just, it doesn't mean every beagle is going to have great olfactory system, right? You have some that like these are broken, but right. So it's just it's we sort of expect it sometimes, but again, this is where you ask every dog because they may not be.
Right. So yeah. So for example, like, and you got want to think about yourself, right? So how do you take in your world? What's your way of doing it? For me, I'll be honest, I'm very visual. Like I notice stuff moved. That is a thing for me. Always, always. Almost to a fault, because when Lisa and I work together, I'm like, who moved that? She goes, what?
I'm not that visually aware. Miss One's totally.
But I am a little much, right? But where some people, when the noise is a little,
That's me.
I'm not that auditory. I mean, I hear things, but I don't. That's not where awareness goes right away when I go into a new spot. I'm always looking around mostly.
I remember when I was squatting in a training space, and it was a very old school, and I'd be teaching, and I'd be like, people are like, what? I'm like, don't you hear all the bats? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, all the bats in the roof. And they're like,
My.
no, weirdo. I'm like, I got the dog ears.
Something.
Yes.
I think too, when I think Christy, you'll see stuff if you ever try to present a very novel a novel item to your dog and see how they respond, something they've never seen before. And, I think if they're visual, obviously you'll see what the deal is, but they're right. You have to identify it. But one way to test it, for example, would be I'd put a novel visual item that they've never seen before, and it's all of a sudden in the middle of the house. How do they respond? I think you could also do the same thing with novel scents as well. Just think about how to assess or how to put out there the physical or the different things that touch each of the emotions, or the feelings, touch, feel, taste, all that, to see how your dog responds to it. So, yeah. I mean, I think last time too, I talked about how at the shelter, there was a dog who had, peanut butter, and then the novel stimulus of cream cheese was much more appealing to that dog than what have you. So it just varies.
Yeah. And also just putting, like with a shepherd or a herding breed, just put like some novel object or a statue.
Yeah. We're all gonna die.
Yeah. What is that? Right? Some of them are like, what is that? And they go up to it, and some of them will be like, we don't care. Right. So anyway, so I shot some video, and now this is a video of Tom and Aaron's young boxer puppy. Now we were shooting this for something else, right? For another thing, but it was really great to see her confidence go up. And it usually doesn't go up for the dog in the same way, but you can see her hesitation and how she handled it to then when she was really comfortable. And so what I want you to keep in mind here is how long it took her, and what the difference in her body language was when she was not so confident versus when she got more comfortable with the teeter, because it's a teeter we introduced her to. Now, she had never been introduced to that period. So she, it was it was a very novel, thing for the dog. So she, it wasn't very, it was just different for her. She was so she did very well, I would say. But what I really want you guys to notice, and this is what I really wanted you to get out of it, is like, what did it look like when she was not confident and where she was confident, right? So let me see if I can make this bigger. Okay, there we go. Let's see if we can make it work, because so let me see. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
So I'm going to turn up the sound. So you can see. So what do you notice right off the bat?
She's a little avoidant. very, very activated with her arousal because she's concerned.
Right. Now she's only 8 months. She's never seen a teeter before.
I'm out. I touched it. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think this is this what I'm seeing is what I think a lot of people see, right? Well, they're trying it. They keep coming back for more. It's like, yeah, but watch her. She grabs that food and takes off.
And that open mouth pan, she's pretty nervous there too, right? And it's it's like pretty open. It's to the back of the.
Oh, she's also very spastic, so just keep that in mind.
But it's like a combination of stuff,
right?
All going on,
right?
And you see here, she's starting to slow down and think about things.
So you guys, so I'm going to pause it for a second. So I know Lisa and Joanne are narrating because I was there with the dog, so it's a little different. So what are some of the things you notice? Because some people would mistake that as just being high drive, right? So what?
Oops.
Uh-oh.
What did she do?
She unshared a whole lot, didn't she?
Oh boy, that's funny. Yeah, but if anybody wants to follow up, there she is.
I'm not sure what happened to me. I touched it just barely. Oh my God. Well, I have a new computer, you guys, and it's been great, but it's been kind of a pain. So what are some
Yes, Morgan's like, yeah.
I can never have enough of you guys. So so what do you think? Yeah, her kind of leaving. Yep, I think Joanne mentioned that. What other things did you notice about her body? I'll reshare.
Are you sure you want to do that?
I know, right? I'm like, what the hell?
Don't be shy, guys.
Yep.
This is how we learn, right?
I can't see you guys because I have to be here to be able to manage it. But so okay, I'll go back a little bit. I'll go back a little bit so you guys can. So what's one thing that they haven't mentioned that you guys can notice about our little princess over here? You guys got to read it to me because I can't see it.
Nobody's answering yet.
Come on, people. It's okay to just take a stab at it. You never know. Because that's how you learn, right? Don't be afraid to be wrong because believe me, been wrong a lot of times.
Yeah. You learn for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Avoiding the handler.
Yeah, that's a good one. Avoiding the handler.
Yep.
Right?
Nice.
Yep. Granted, the daddy is off site there, so she's going to him, but she
nice. Yep, looks like she's got a gator mouth going. Takes the treats rough.
Actually, it wasn't too bad, but yeah, it looks like it, but no.
Yeah, it's pretty grabby.
Pretty grabby, yes. It wasn't hard, just grabby.
Yeah, she's only staying for treats.
Yeah.
Her tail is wagging, and she seems curious, and wants to,
daddy.
But she's reluctant. Yeah.
So, what do you notice right there in that piece?
She's taking time to investigate.
Yep. So what have you noticed so far right there? What do you, there's a
weight shift.
Huh?
The weight shift.
Yep. And she's also slowed down and just.
But like when you first started, her weight shift was on her back end and she was touching and going. And then as she got better with it and realized it wasn't going to kill her, she decided she'd weight shift to the front like that. Yep.
So that's where you see her confidence building. You see how much smoother she is. And now she doesn't want to leave. And she can leave anytime.
Right. Have her rear feet touched it ever? Maybe when she hopped over it, but I don't think purposefully.
Nope. And we're not going to ask her that right now. That's not what we're doing. We would never ask her to go over that teeter right now. This is the first time she's ever seen it. So we would never ask her to do that. Right. All we want her to is to interact with it in a positive way and become and have her and build her confidence on it.
That was good.
Right. So you could see her weight is different. She comes off of it, but now she's like, okay.
Wow.
Yep. So now you guys, everybody's not going to be as quick, right, as this particular dog.
And that makes it difficult. That's why it's nice to have the ability to go in slow-mo to catch stuff.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
so she, so she went pretty quickly. Like we were looking, and we would never ask her to put her
Yes.
to go over that teeter at this time, right? She is a very confident dog, Jill, very confident dog, but she wasn't super confident on that teeter and that moment in time, right? She had never seen that before. It was new for her. So she was at first, and was she super like worried, major lack of confidence? No, but that's where she is in her who she is, right? She's unsure, but it took her that short video for her to be banging the board on her own without a lot of prompting. So normally that wouldn't go that fast for most dogs, and at that point we did stop. Right? We stopped. That's all we wanted. That she would confidently be comfortable around that. Now, prior to that video, we did to make sure she was auditorily okay with it and that she was okay with the movement. So we did another wobble board to make sure that those two things were on check before we did that. Right. And that's what Aaron said. We did those two things separately. And then, because if she was worried about sound, we weren't going to do that. Right. But she didn't worry about either one of those two things. She just had to be, she just got a little amped up, but she was able to dial it down on her own without a lot of prompting from us. And we allowed her to do whatever. And because we allowed her to work on her own, that's why she looks at the end, she was banging that board on her own and her body softened up a lot. Because what I was looking for was early in the beginning, there was a little bit of muscle tension. Like Lisa said, she was on her rear, not on her front. She was just not sure. As she got more comfortable, you saw that come all, she was all square on all 4 feet, right?
More balanced.
There was nothing on her, even though we didn't ask her to, go over that teeter, and we weren't gonna. That wasn't the objective of that night, right? We wanted to show people, because usually, and I don't know if that's still how we introduce the teeter. We just get them to bang the board, have the dog body control the movement. We never take them over that board until they're much more comfortable with that. So, and remember, she's just 8 months old. She's just 8 months old, and we want to make sure that we don't scare her. She's a very confident dog, and would she probably be a little bit worried if she had a bad experience, and she'd probably get over it pretty quick because she's pretty resilient. However, why would we do that if we don't have to, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that to tell everybody else, we introduced her to the movement and sound separate first, right? So you can have the dog way across the room and have somebody bang that teeter, and what you're watching for, is the dog doing that, right? I mean, do they care about the noise? And then you said the wobble board, right, which is a much smaller tip, and it doesn't have the noise with it, right? So if the dog, they may have an issue with the bang sound, or they may have an issue with the movement. So testing them separately before you put them together is going to give you a lot more information of what might the problem be if you have one.
Right. So here, like, I'll show you really quick. This is what we got to this point before we.
She's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you could care less about the sound. So I knew that the sound was not going to be an issue for the dog, right? But we did that first before we ever asked her to put her feet on it, right? That's really important. So we wanted to make sure that that she was going to be comfortable with the sound and the movement prior to her even asking her. If she would have been scared of the noise, there's no way we would have done that exercise. No way. we would have that would have been another thing. But she was sitting there like, whatever. But I also knew she wasn't auditory. She's aware of it, but doesn't want to. She's like, things can fall down around her big head, and she's like, whatever, I don't care. She might notice it, but she won't be worried about it. But she's also a young dog, so she might be going through a fear period or whatever. We want to go there. Tom and Aaron want to do agility with that dog, so we want to make sure we do everything. Going slow will get you there faster for sure, right? So that was her. That was just so that's a very quick demo of how you can build confidence really carefully. Again, you don't want could we have, and this is a people thing, could we have continued like, come on, now she's doing pretty good, let's try to take her over it, because you could think about that, but we did not. We stopped it right there. We were like, okay. And then the other thing we did after the fact was we then, because sometimes the angle of how the angle of how the teeter moves could be worrisome for some dogs, right? So we ended up doing hold on, let me see if I can find it. I know we did it. Yeah, here we go. We ended up doing a little bit of, without the movement, right? We didn't combine it, we separated it. And this is kind of how you kind of want to make sure it's good for the dog. We just have her going over so that she gets used to the downward moving, coming downward, right? Without the movement yet. So she has more control of you, because remember, she's only 8 months old. And I just want her to going the downside is going to be good for her. And it wasn't really a problem for her. She had no issues. Tom's gonna have to teach her to just stop somehow. Wow.
Like,
yep. But because she is she will be a very confident dog on the equipment. She doesn't seem to be worried about much. Right.
And she's got good foot placement too.
Yeah, she does. And which is great because she's just a gangly teenager right now.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but she's got good body awareness and all that. Still, she still has to learn how to bring her feet in, just like the Dobermans and the Rotties, where they have to bring their feet in to do the dog walk. But as she gets larger and she develops too, but yeah, she's going to be a lot of fun. So Tom's going to learn going to have to run. But you see how quickly her confidence grows, right? She went from like, I don't know, to, okay, I'm not going to die on it. But we let her figure that out, and we let her make those decisions. We did it off leash, so she had a freedom to come back to it if she wanted to. Right? So Susan made that comment. She keeps coming back, even if she was a little reluctant. But yeah, she could have not come back. She could have stayed by Tom. She could have gone by Aaron. She could have done a lot of other shit, but she did not. She stayed. She was like, okay, I come back. That was kind of good. The foods are good. The food is good. And it was worth it for her to give it a shot. Right. So that was really, so that's kind of how, but all the decision was her, not us. Right. She made the decision.
So speaking of that, in March of 2020, I took on a little dog, the cattle dog. I'm going to show that video if you think we can show that.
Yep.
So it was novel stimulus. She was brand new. She was like 6 months old. Oops, that's not it. What happened was I just wanted to find out more information. Don't mind me in this thing because I'm a little sloppy right there. But that's okay. I do this for the dogs. All right. How come I can share slides? Share screen. All right. Can you guys see? Yeah.
No,
not yet.
Hold on. Relax.
We can't see.
Share screen. Where is it? No. Sorry, guys. I'm terrible at this. Clearly. Let me go back to window and see.
Yeah, you'll have to share the screen first, then go to there you go. You got it.
All right. So this is, her name was Perry at the time. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. I just thought I pushed play. All right. So this is the first time she's seeing this situation. And me yapping.
Variety of things, but this is the first time this pup's seeing it. Right now, I am trying to get her a little acclimated to it. She can be a bit sensitive. You see how she yields space. You see how she yields space. Open up. That worried her a bit. So
you see, she's not confident with that piece of equipment.
Yeah, you can help dogs.
And she doesn't look like Jive. She doesn't look like she's but she's kind of figuring it out, and that's what I mean with the off leash stuff. They get to figure it out. Right? She's free to do that. She doesn't have to stay there. Right? She can go elsewhere.
So there was a sound, and then she got worried, right? So just the sound of the things coming in. Do you see how she's stretching and backing up and stretching?
So could you pause it there, Lisa? That is why when we have dogs that are worried about people, the idea of having people reach in and give them a treat where they're stretching like that is a bad idea, because they are not learning to be comfortable around that person. What they're learning is they can just they can get themselves into a situation because they want the treat, but that's not really they're not really liking the person, right? So
it's putting them in conflict, right?
Right. It's in conflict. They want the cookie, but they really don't want to be near that person.
Right. So again, that came out, I muted everything, but there's that sound that happens. So then she gets comfortable. Here's one thing I noticed about her is when she's unsure of something, she will like back up and put her leg on me. It's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But this was a hard thing too. So is that enough?
Yep, that was good. So did she ever get comfortable with that, Lisa?
I actually stop sharing. I did I play a little bit with her, but she is super sensitive and she does kind of hang on to stuff. So what I'm just doing is like gradually here and there. I'm not doing tons of it because one, physically, I don't know if I want to do any kind of agility with her because I'm worried about her structure because she doesn't have a lot of angles and I'm afraid she might injure herself. So I would have used that for, say, some people use it for crate training, but I would also have used it for like the end of the weave poles or something like that to get them to drive through. And I figured I'd just do something different because it wasn't working for her. Like I didn't see the benefit to put her in that position because I didn't know if it was going to make it worse or better. So I just stopped it altogether.
That's what I was going to ask you just watching that, and we only got a short clip, but just watching that, how long did it take her to even remotely stop stretching so far? Right.
Right.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're right. I mean, it took her a while, and I just know that about her. So like each of my dogs, I'll pay attention to who they are and I adjust accordingly. So in her case, I basically weighed myself. Does it matter that she, knows how to do this? I was doing it more for demonstration purposes.
Sure.
So, it depends like if it's something I really want to do and I'm like, oh, this poses a potential issue. If my dogs don't, I love my dogs, but if they choose not to do a sport, I'm okay with it. So to me, I take that pressure off. It's like, all right, it's not your gig. That's cool. We'll do something different.
Yeah. I think what I wanted to point out there was, after you work it for a while, if it's not getting better, try something else. Like you have to, and I know, like, I'm just taking the manners minor just because that was the demo video, but like, if that's what you want to use, they have a smaller version, right? Could a lighter noise make a difference? Could you throw a cookie? Could you do, right? So it's just like, sometimes it's fine to try, but if the dog's not making progress, that's where you just kind of have to say, what other options can I try that are better for the dog?
Right. Well, and it goes back to with Crimson on the teeter, like that progress was pretty quick. Like that wasn't under the take. That was original take. We didn't redo. We didn't do any of that. That was from start to finish. That's what we got. But that is the raw material we have to work with there. Right. She's a pretty drivey dog. She's pretty confident. So yeah, it wasn't going to take long, but you can take another dog. That might be a little bit different story. It might, we might not have gotten to the banging the board. We might have just stayed at the listening to the hearing part, right? Because that's where they're at. So not every dog's going to go like that. Right? Where the raw material there, the dog in and of itself is, has that is that. So one of the hallmarks of helping dogs become confident is allowing the dog to the freedom to choose, because I think that's what I think that's where we as people, we take it away from them. They
Yep.
don't have the freedom to choose. So they're like, it's okay. They're on leash and they're there. And a lot of time they're not enjoying it. They're enduring it. Right. So, when the dog is free to choose, ideally you want them to, see where they are at and accept where they're at and then move on from there instead of forcing them to go there.
Yeah. Or that age-old comment, like, don't let them get away with that. Make sure they do it right once before you put them away. It's like,
no.
Imagine if that was your kid, right?
Well, some people do that with
Well, I know, but I mean, right? Sometimes you just need a break. Just give me a second and let me come back to it,
Right. So, Lori, I don't know if she's watching. She, oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Mary Laurie sent me a video this afternoon. It was a really good video. I would like to watch it. And Mary's a great sport about allowing us to kind of talk about things. And she shot the video. I think it's very telling. I'm not going to tell you too much about the dog at all. So you can tell me what you think about what his confidence is it's high, medium, low, and just your thoughts in general. Okay, so I'm going to play that video. She was super nice to send it to me this afternoon. I thought, oh yeah, we could totally use this video. It was great. All right, let me share screen. You guys can see that, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know tonight's boxer night. Just saying. It's boxer night.
Right. So already the dog's visually very worried.
Yep. Well, and he should, right? He's a boxer. Boxers are visual. So that's normal. That's how he takes in his world, right? But and I don't get a chance to say it. So why do you think Joanne said that? What gives you the tip? What's the tip off? You guys don't answer. What's the tip off that he was a little bit worried? If they're answering, let me know if they're answering.
No answers yet.
Come on, guys.
Anyone.
Yeah, play it again
Yeah.
from the beginning. Ears back.
How he's holding his rear.
His stance.
Yep.
Butt.
On the ground, head checking.
Yep, butt off the ground, head checking.
Is not still.
Moving a lot.
Are those the answers you're getting?
Yes, not sitting.
Yeah.
So one of the things I
body.
want you to really look at, what is the one thing they haven't mentioned, is muscle tension.
Mm-hmm.
He's a muscular dog, but look at the tension in his body.
Yep. Karen just put the tense body, gaze following person.
Yep.
Yep. Head moving back and forth quickly, on alert.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hypervigilant. Yep.
And Mary was directing the dog and the videographer.
She's like, do this.
Yeah, she's talking.
We're not zooming in on you. Don't zoom in.
Don't zoom in.
That is the Mary and Frank show, yes.
He started to crouch a little, like he might want to run away, looking back at the owner. Stop it. You guys stop it. It's like, I want to participate too.
I know I'm gonna squash your confidence. Stop it.
Yeah, said he was on guard just in case it was an issue.
Seems very uncomfortable. Yep. Yeah, but do you notice the difference?
I love that. He's like, those doors are kind of freaky, right?
Yeah. But it was so interesting to me. What I thought was interesting, staying relaxed.
Yeah.
What I thought was interesting is when she first started, he was less apt to check in with her until
Right.
next.
Yes.
Right.
So his awareness, so to speak. And
I'm gonna guess, just based on things, this dog has done a lot of auto check-in work because
Yes, she has. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So if you guys ever hear about us talking that exercise, the reason why it helps is if you see that there, think about when you sometimes see a dog get fixated on something, right? And sometimes it's like putting your pedal on the gas, right? And they can't, they're just stuck on it, watching. If they can learn to break that themselves and check back in with their owner for some help and support, it helps takes the foot off the gas, right?
Right.
Yep.
And Mary has done a nice job of giving him something else to do besides do what he might want to do. He's checking in with her for information. When you have a dog that's not super confident like this dog, that builds his confidence. At least he knows what to do in that situation. And Mary has done a lot of it.
Yeah. And if you guys, you might not have caught it because I'm just so used to seeing it, but the biggest thing was when she's sitting there, right? And he's looking at those doors and the person with the cart comes and he's watching. She doesn't do anything. She's not calling his name. She's not prompting him. She's not touching him. And he, of his own accord, can break that and be like, what do we do now? You know what I mean? And that's helpful to him. So that's when he did that. And it was such a strong, nice breakaway from something he's worried with was when I asked the question, like, this dog's done a lot of auto check-in, right? Because that close to things that he's clearly worried about. Really nice break off. So that was nice, Mary. Good job.
Yeah, because she's worked a lot of that. And that's how you help build a dog that has low confidence in environment and stuff. That's how you work it, right? Now, mind you, Mary has done a lot of work before going to Home Depot in that busy environment. He is kind of ready to move on to that. And you saw her, it was a very short training exercise and then she left, right? She stopped it. So people think you have to do that for a long time. No, she made more headway there than she would have if she would have kept going and kept going and kept going. Right?
Yes, because as humans, when do we stay until
they fail? Quit it.
Yeah, till the dog loses it and barking and lunging, and you're like, we gotta go. We gotta put him in the car. Yeah.
Right. So it's one of those things. So she did a really nice job of that, of checking in, reinforcing it, and the dog was able to handle back a year ago would have been. Yes, he was a little uncomfortable, but he was able to handle it, right? And right, Karen, Mary was very un-Mary-like. She rocked it out. She stayed pretty cool. Mary can get pretty stressed out. She did a great job of that. She was pretty relaxed. Well, I think maybe because she was busy directing Frank, but
yes. That's why she looks so relaxed.
Right. She's yelling at Frank. So Morgan says, take a certain amount of treats, and when you're low or out and the exercise, that's actually a wonderful thing for people who are pushers, right?
Yes.
You're like, I just take a few more out of the bait bag, just a couple more, and then when you go with 25 treats and they're gone, it's like, time's up, done.
Right.
I think I also find too, when people are doing this, their reinforcement rate is not as high as it should be, especially when you start out. So this does talk about how Mary has been doing some of this, so she understands. Right. But when you first start out and you're dealing with stuff, so, we talked about Martin, and the first time I took him out to was Target or something. They were pushing the carts and everything. We worked on just paying attention to me while that's happening and moving space away, just to help him get more confident, because novelty, he's a visual guy too. Right. So it was tons of treats, and then I'm like, let's go. And we stopped it and we were done. So,
right. So Mary did a nice job. And she because Mary and Mary knows she can be a pusher, just like me, just like most of us. But she didn't. And the dog is checking in like she's done a great job. Because let me tell you, a year ago, there's no way he could have handled that, because that was busy. The environment, the doors closing, the shopping carts, that was a lot.
Yes.
And he was like, okay. He didn't
So-
lose. He didn't go beyond where he was, which is nice.
Yeah, and the one other thing that was really, really smart about that is just something to think about, right? When you're working this and you think you're ready to go to a public space, right? If you looked at that piece of environment, she had a solid wall on one side, right? I'm just guessing, right? She had sort of something blocking behind her, maybe pallets on the sidewalk or something. Right. So you only have to see your visual field of view, right? Nothing's gonna sneak up behind you. Oh, I love boxers. Oh, right? So
Right.
You want to be able, so you're not looking like he's looking in the first couple seconds of that video, right? Where, oh my God, what's
Who's
this?
behind you? What's happening?
Because as soon as you do that, you're worried. You're going to worry the dog, right? So it's like when you can have control your own environment, so you don't have to worry so much for the dog, you can focus on the dog.
Mhm.
Right.
So
yeah, but again, Mary has done a lot of work with the young man, and she's because the little guy worries about people too. He's getting lots better with that. Like, we can walk past people every once in a while. He can get a little worried, but for the most part, 90% of the time, he's like, he can walk past a person. He can, he can handle that every once in a while, but that, to be honest, that could happen with any dog, right? Even if it's a dog that's super, super friendly, it's still not okay to jump on somebody. So, like, I have to be also vigilant with my lab, right? Because I don't want her jumping on people. She likes people, but I don't. Yeah, he is doing pretty good in so one of the things is giving the dog the freedom to choose, right? That's super important, and I know it's not always possible all the time, but part of your training, if you want to build confidence, like an agility, that's why being on leash to do some of the equipment is it's challenging, right? Because the dog doesn't have the freedom to go away like Little Crimson did. Like, she was able to leave, come back, and kind of work it through. So it's nice when they have the freedom to choose. So that's one way to build confidence. And that's why nose work is a great confidence builder, right? Because they have to work out the problem. They have to go to source. They have to do most of that initial work. And it's a very big confidence builder. After a while, we have to get a little more involved. But overall, that particular sport lends itself to a lot more
autonomy for the dog.
And so you can take a really worried dog, and even if you never compete, just do some nose work is a huge thing, right? It's huge for the dogs, right? They just because they make the decisions, they're the ones calling the shots. And so that's very helpful. It's no different than us. We learn how to do something on our own, it's going to stay with us forever. Right. Versus if somebody, like, come on, makes us learn it, right? It's always easier when you learn it yourself. Like, that's how it is with computers. It's like when you figure it out, you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. where some of it's, you can't do it. So yeah, so confidence. It's one of those things you want to give the dog some autonomy, and we don't.
No.
We take it away, which is why sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And a lot of in other training facilities or other trainers, they keep the dog very busy and very, very active and very aroused. So they really never learn how to. When they're always being managed, there's no learning happening. If somebody's always managing you, you're not going to learn. You're just going to go through. You're just going to do what you're told, right? You're not learning a thing. You're just following the rules, right? It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Morgan. Nose work for the people who do a lot of obedience and all that. It's hell. Because they just, like, they got to tell the dog, don't do this, don't do that. So yeah, no, it is, but it's great for the dog. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's a great sport. Eventually you definitely learn how to work together as a team, but it's a great sport in that regard. Right. Because the dogs have so much autonomy, but like you see, like Lisa and with some of with Joy, we usually give the freedom to the dog to let the dog make the choices. Right. And in some cases, like, and this is where Mary's struggling. Mary's struggling. The dog does have some skills now.
Yeah.
He does. So now you have to give him the opportunity to make those good choices, right? And she has to trust that he will. So,
Pat, you talked about handling the arousal right up from the car. That's your question that came in. First of all, I had a dog that when I go to new places, she would spin in the crate, and it made me absolutely insane. So you have to.
Is her name Nova?
No.
Is she a Doberman?
She was a shepherd, a German shepherd. But anyway, so what happened is that like we went to a place or I just put her in the car and practice in the garage first. So you have to practice in a benign environment and then start to see if the dog can collect its brain. Once that happens, start moving around to different places. And when I started to do that, it took her a while because she was very excited to be somewhere. And I can't tell you, I don't even remember. I stopped counting because I got too frustrated because it took her so long to figure out, like, don't spin. But come to think of it, somebody not mentioning any names might have been undoing some of the things I was doing with her. So that's the other part, right? So even though one of you got whoever it is that's handling working with the dog, if you're very particular about it, but somebody else turns around and it's not the same criteria, same rules, you kind of almost set the dog back, and that becomes kind of a vicious cycle too. So
right. Because yeah, you definitely want that's why I always teach my dogs to wait at the car, wait before coming out. I don't let them jump out of the crate. I mean, that I start from when they were little. So it's like, and not to mention, like with my boy, he'll tend to want to bark. So I'll just close the door and wait till he shuts up, and then I'll open it again and try to let him
out. He might freeze if you wait that long.
Oh boy.
I'll do it I do that when it's not below zero, but maybe that might be an extra added help. But yeah. And then, so Pat, you might end up just being by the car, right? That's all you might end up going to the mall, going to a new environment, having them. And that's where nose work is really helpful, because you can take a couple of boxes, do a couple of searches by the car, and then you can move. Then you can kind of take some of the edge off and do some of that work, right? So that's really helpful if you have that. If you have that, even if you never compete, doesn't matter. It's
and I know you guys were like referring to it, but you didn't say it actually, so I'm just gonna say it.
Say it.
Go to like an after school parking lot, right? Because if you have the arousal from right out of the car, and the only time the dog's in the car or gets in and out of the car is like classes or busy spaces, right? Work it. Like that's where I really like high schools or grade schools. You know, after 5 p.m., the parking lots are usually dead. Right. So you can have a nice quiet space to work on.
Right. Yeah. So it's one. So confidence. So here's the thing, you guys. To build your dog's confidence, you have to thin slice it, and that I think is where we as handlers fail, because we want to hurry up and get it done. And I promise you, thin slicing it and going slower is it goes so much faster. The dogs really make those connections so much easier instead of trying to overwhelm them. Because when you overwhelm them, there's nothing, there's no learning happening. You just got through it, right? So you definitely want to thin slice it as thin as you can and go back as far as you can. So like in this case, Luigi with Mary is able to be in that space, but maybe Mary the first time she stayed in the parking lot across the street just by the car. And maybe that's what she had to do for a little bit. And when I say it's a little bit, I mean it, right? It's like, you might only do it once or twice. Then it would be like, okay, I can handle that. And then you can move on to the next. And then the next shouldn't be, going all the way where Mary was, right? The next might be, you're going to go a few feet away from the car, maybe across the street for the dog, might be where as good as it gets for a little while. And then eventually you get there. But if you do it regularly, you get further than if you try to lump it all together. Right. Yes. Thin slices is a big deal. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a lumper. I have that tendency. I always have to check myself, because I'm better about it now. And it comes more natural to thin slice it. But man, in the beginning, it was very, very hard. I was a lumper, and I just wanted to just figure it out. And then with Cha-Cha, then I got Cha-Cha, and then she made it so easy to be a lumper.
You got those dogs. Pat, you had talked about you go to a manners class and getting into the building is difficult. You need to practice going there if you can, or different locations, not, going there and not going in, because that also can make an impact because there's high reinforcement in the building.
Like a wild stallion.
Yeah. There's reinforcement in the building, right? That's where all the good stuff happens. Nothing ever happened from the car to the building, right? So those are things you have to think about. Well, how can I make that good to be valuable to listen to me from the car to the building?
Right.
And, rehearse your walking on a leash, because clearly somebody's lost their little mind. So that's something you want to try and affect as well.
Pat, what kind of dogs do you have?
Border collies.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or is he I don't know if this is an Aussie or not.
Well, and once you do work yourself up, right, to going into class, leave yourself 20 minutes. Get there early, and right, just don't go inside, right? And that way, I know it's February, so sorry, but right, it's like sometimes it's like if you can't hold it, we're gonna put you back in the car. All right, now let's get out again. Can you take 2 steps? Not pull on me. We're gonna wait. Right. And it sucks because it might take you 20 minutes to go 30 steps from the car into the building. And, sometimes we have to do that too. And the dog finally, sometimes they just give up, right? They're like, oh my God, you don't know how to walk. You're like, you don't know how to walk. So, take your time, leave extra time, because that is, humans are like, I got to get into class. I don't have time to work on this.
Right.
Work on it, right?
Right.
What happens?
Yeah. And then you walk out that's why part of my reactive dog and focus fighter class is coming in and going out every single week. You come in, you behave yourselves, you wait, you take your time, you walk to the door. So that is part of the whole class, because wow, it's just too much. Yeah, Coop. We remember Coop very well, Morgan. I feel you. But yeah, that's part of the class, is kind of getting them to calm down and build that confidence and be, but thin slicing it may not feel like you're doing much, but you really are. So taking your time to build that confidence is really, really important, right? Because it's one of those things that it's one of those things that if you try to lump it and all that, you might miss. There's going to be some holes in it. In that training.
Yep.
And build. And then you want to build, and then the other thing I wanted to kind of remind you guys. So like, for example, Crimson did really good with the teeter thing, right? She did pretty good. It wasn't a big deal. She got really comfortable quickly. So, but maybe if you take her to do the A-frame, let's say, which I can't imagine, but let's say you do the A-frame, she might decide that's really horrible. I'm not doing that. She might not have the same level of confidence on that piece of equipment that she does with this piece of equipment.
Right.
So just because she's okay with the teeter, we automatically think, oh, they'll be okay with the A-frame. No. She might not be, or she might be okay, or if she's okay in this facility, she's going to be super fine in the other one. You're always checking and you're always asking the questions, right? Is this all right for you? Does it work for you? Are you still all right? If you're still all right, then we'll go on. And if you're not, then right, we then have to go back, but we make those assumptions on the dogs. Like he did fine over there. I don't know why he's not doing fine now. Well, because he's comfortable and happy there. It's like, you can't expect him to act the same way at home that he, that he acts at home, because he just, it's a different situation.
And remember, at home, we're much more different. I mean, how many of the three of us are wearing pajama bottoms, for example, right? We're much better at home than we are out and about. I mean, I'm not going to walk around in my pajamas. Well, maybe I will, but because I really don't care. I'm all for comfort. But those are things to keep in mind, right? So the way I act in my home is much different than how I would act out and about, but I'm more confident in my home than I am everywhere else. So.
Right. Exactly. All right, guys. So I am going to put a link to a little poll that I have for you. We have questions about how you liked our little series, if you'd be interested in having more of it. And so we'd really like your opinion on what you liked, what you didn't like, what was good for you, what wasn't so we really want to know more if we should continue doing these, should we do it, and any other ideas you have for other topics, because there's a ton of them, and just because we like them doesn't mean it's something that you're interested in. So I would love your feedback on it. Right. So yeah, so thin slicing it to get her used to the blow dryer, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, well, so it's okay while it's off and all that. And little Crimson is a little more. She's a noise arouses her, but she's not noise sensitive, if you will, right? So it's a different.
Well, you would have seen that. You would have seen that when you were banging the thing when you
Yeah.
were starting teaching that.
Right.
She was just laying there like, okay, I get a cookie. Okay, I get a cookie.
Yeah, and she
So,
was good with that, right?
It was very good.
So anyway, we put that poll there if you're interested, and I will pin it on my Facebook page. So if you guys would take 2 minutes of your time and answer those questions and kind of give us some feedback on this particular stuff that we've done in the last 3 weeks, and see if this is something we should continue or continue to do. We'd love to know it, right? And if this is something that you're comfortable, with it, or you'd like more of it. Anyway, I hopefully you found this helpful, and we will keep on keeping on. We're here. We are next week here. I can't remember the topic, but I'll wait. I'll look for your feedback and see what we come up with. Anyway, thank you all. It was a great evening. Thank you for participating.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.